I tried beating the 3 most popular roguelikes in under 1 hour, which I can say now is a pretty monumental task. I honestly don't even know if this is possible since I can't find anyone else who tried the same thing. But I don't care. I know if I could just strategize correctly, practice hard, and drink enough caffeine to take out a small elephant, I could have a decent shot. Maybe. Beating a roguelike quickly is already a hard enough task. Not only do you have to understand synergies, have pattern awareness, and a couple of other big gamer terms, but you also need a valuable resource that's just not easy to come by. I'm talking about luck, baby, and a lot of it. Since roguelikes have a hilarious habit of changing things every run, you can't really rely on figuring out a single path to carry you to the end. Bosses, items, and entire levels will be different every single time. So RNG can either help you on your heroic climb to speedrun Olympus, or push you into the valley below and watch the light leave your eyes. In most cases, it's the second one. To put it simply, imagine playing chess, except every time you blink, the pieces change. The board grows, and also now your opponent is holding a katana. This is the roguelike experience. Normally, it's not the worst thing in the world to lose time due to bad luck, since you could always reset the run. But in this case, I can't. I have to pray that my luck isn't horrible for 3 games in a row. Not to mention that in these games specifically, there are enemies that slow you down, boss spawns that can be incredibly far away and cost minutes, and the occasional unskippable dialogue and cutscene. This challenge is also an RTA, aka using real-world time, which brings up a slew of problems we'll talk about later. Now, let's take a look at the games themselves. After doing a bit of research, I found the 3 most popular roguelikes according to Steam were, drumroll please, my 2020 Game of the Year, full of action combat, engaging story, and enough gods to make Kratos wet himself, Hades. The 2022 Breakthrough Game of the Year, which can only be defined as a dopamine-fueled upgrade system that scratches the very core of your brain's pleasure center, Vampire Survivors. And last but not least, the game that revolutionized the roguelike genre, is responsible for the amount of love and support roguelikes have today, and can be defined in the single statement, "I'm glad I can't smell this," 2014's Binding of Isaac Rebirth. With my task ahead of me and my journey set, I'm ready to take on a challenge I'm not even sure is possible. But unfortunately, there is one more massive problem in my way. I haven't played 2 of these games in years. This is gonna go great. My first day of practice is going exactly as I expected. I'm getting my teeth kicked in and remembering just how hard these games can be. In 1 word, very. In 2 words, very, very. One could say that I'm joking, cause I bit off way more than I can chew. Huh? What do you think? I spent my entire day relearning mechanics, playing at a moderate pace, and just trying to make it out alive. And honestly, I'm still actually kinda garbage. My win rate right now is only about 40%, but that's actually 30% higher than I was shooting for, so I'll call it a win. Alongside some much needed practice, I'm also getting a much clearer picture of what I needed to work on. Alright, okay, I get it. I get the joke! I get it! At this point, I know how important it is to choose an exact order for these games so I can get a better picture of what's ahead. In the words of Sun Tzu, plan for what is difficult, while it is easy. Do what is great, while it is small. I don't think he was talking about roguelikes. The first game would be Binding of Isaac for a variety of reasons. Isaac is where RNG comes to party. This game can slow you down in a ton of ways. Everything from enemies that take time to kill, terrible runs that refuse to give you decent items, and layouts that can make one floor take multiple extra minutes just because the boss room decided to have a restraining order. Out of the 3 titles, this is the game that I labeled the Run Killer. Also, I kinda suck at it. Because of all these circumstances, I put this game first. That way, when things go wrong, which they always do, I'll be able to simply reset and start anew. The second game in my order is Vampire Survivors. If you've ever played this game, you'd know that it's incredibly consistent. Understanding synergies is important, but besides that, once you get the hang of it, you can win 9 times out of 10. The only issue here is having to use hurry mode due to our time constraint, which lowers the amount of time it takes you to beat a run by 15 minutes. This also makes the game more difficult and causes enemies to spawn faster overall, but it's worth saving the 15 minutes that would have been spent playing this game on normal mode. The other massive reason why I put this game second is because Binding of Isaac and Hades are incredibly intense games. Dodging bullets, smashing buttons, and praying to not get hit takes a lot out of you. So having Vampire Survivors as a palate cleanser in between the other two games gave me a bit of time to rest and strategize for my final enemy. Hades is a very weird game for our challenge, and has the capacity to completely ruin my life. On one hand, it's incredibly consistent, granting you the ability to somewhat choose the build you want as you race towards that final boss. On top of that, floors will always take a certain amount of rooms, so I'll never have to worry about backtracking if the RNG gods aren't in my favor. However, there is a very big problem that I mentioned in the beginning of the video. Since this challenge is an RTA and using real-world time, Hades' consistency in runs is no longer that reliable. Every time you get a boon, there's dialogue. There's a small percent chance that rooms are timed events and take longer. There's an annoying cutscene right before the last boss, and the list of possible real-world time losses go on. Meaning, even if I could get my in-game time to below 20 minutes, in the real world, it would cost me a lot more. Not like it matters though, because my in-game time is still not great. With my first day of practice out of my way, my order chosen, and a decent amount of losses under my belt, my brain is finally starting to fold. My win rate in Hades spiked, but even though I'm being more consistent, I just can't get my clear time under 20 minutes. And judging from this run here, a 20-minute runtime would actually cost me around 30 minutes of real-world time when you factor in dialogue and loading screens. Since Vampire Survivors will always take at least 17 minutes due to loading the game up, choosing my character, and consistent pop-ups to choose items, this would force my Isaac run to be 14 minutes or less, including cutscenes and boss fights. Unless I was the god of gaming himself, that's just not possible, Buster. I am not a speedrunner. I'm a normal guy. That sounded like a roast. I didn't mean for that to sound like a roast. So I have to keep grinding and find other places to save time. Also, I'm still pretty bad at Isaac. With another day of practice and a night full of clock-related nightmares behind me, I woke up today ready to learn. Sure, I'm winning a lot more, but in this case, a 20-minute win is actually a loss. I know at this point that I'm going to have to make a big change. So that's exactly what I do. To save you a long-winded and complicated explanation, I'll make this quick. Basically, for the first 2 days of Hades, I was using a speedrun gun that everyone uses. However, this playstyle just wasn't for me. Awkward reloading, positioning the slow grenade to hit enemies and also hit me so I'd get a buff, and having to aim was a pretty tall order. Even though on paper this weapon has been historically the fastest, I just couldn't make it work. So I finally decided to swap to my favorite weapon, the gauntlets, which dealt more consistent damage, didn't require aiming, and also relied on a much safer and much more consistent build. With my new weapon at hand, I sit down and practice for a few hours. And finally, after just a few runs, this happens. 1531, not bad. Okay, this feels pretty good. It's nearly a whole 5 minutes down from most of the runs I've attempted. But again, since I decided to do an RTA, this actually translated to a 28-22, which is nearly half the time I have available to beat 3 games. I've realized now that no matter how well I play, this deadline is going to be incredibly tight. Even at my best time, this leaves me with less than 17 minutes to get through the Binding of Isaac and another 17 for Vampire Survivors. Having to factor in load times, closing and opening the games, and whatever else could cause a real-world time loss, there were just so many things that could go wrong. But inspired by gusto, caffeine, and funny third item, I've decided it's now or never. My Binding of Isaac run starts off on the wrong foot. I immediately take damage. Getting hit once on the first floor isn't really a big deal, but then I get hit 3 more times. Taking 1 hit is already a bad sign. However, taking 4 hits is essentially just a bad streak at this point. I defeat the first boss and get a pickup that immediately gives me damage and luck. Though it's a horrendous start, I know I have to play it out because damage is the best stat in the game. I walk in a random direction and find a pill that gives me a speed up. I get hit again because I'm bad, kill the boss, and get bonus range, which is very good for the character I'm playing. At this point, a devil room spawns, which has the capacity to give me game-breaking items at the cost of my health. But this time, it kind of sucks. It doesn't even really matter because nearly all of the OP run-winning items cost 2 hearts to purchase, which I literally couldn't afford or I'd die. Now, I want to take a quick second to explain these stats right here. Basically, a devil room has a chance of spawning if you didn't take any red heart damage on a specific floor. On the second floor, it will always spawn if this condition is met. However, there is a better and less costly room that can spawn, called an angel room. Refusing to take deals with the devil will give you a percentage chance of getting an angel room after your next boss. Had I been smarter, I would have not entered the devil room to keep my chances of getting an angel room higher on the next floor. Unfortunately, I was nervous, and I walked into the devil room only to not get an item and reduce my chances of getting an angel room on my next try. With a measly 16.9% chance to get either room, I enter my next floor ready to call it quits. After some bad gameplay in a room full of fly bombs and a bit of walking, I open a random treasure chest I find and get a Joker card, which sends you to either a devil room or an angel room if you have a chance. Cards can spawn somewhat frequently, and a lot of times they're pretty useless, but a card has a 20% chance to be a suit card, and suit cards only have a 20% chance to be a Joker card, which teleports the player to a devil room or angel room if they're available, which at this point will teleport me to either a devil room or angel room since they're both available. Even though I'm low on health, I use the card and take my chances, knowing that I wouldn't be able to afford anything OP in the devil room. And by insane, unrealistic luck, I get sent to an angel room instead. This is crazy. I grab an item that gives me faster attack speed, which is fantastic because this character struggles with charge time. And if that wasn't lucky enough, I immediately see this. Now this room is called a planetarium, which only has a 20% spawn rate per treasure room you skip. Since I'm speedrunning, I can only go into treasure rooms if they're directly in my path, but for the first 2 floors, I just happen to not see any of them, meaning I had a 40% chance to get this room, meaning I won a gamble on a 40% chance. This item gave me more attack speed and it also made me a little tiny. I finish the floor, kill the boss, get even more attack speed, and move on. I move faster than I ever have before, and find a new treasure room with an item that I don't think works on my build, but whatever. I sprint to the boss, get hit once, kill him, get HP up, and proceed. The next floor is also pretty fast. I find a random item that's just sitting there, okay? While sprinting faster than I can think, I see an X on a rock, so I blow it up and it gives me a stapler, which is a damage up that I desperately need. I run towards the boss and open his door. I also flat out don't pick up a doorstop, which is very stupid, but it's a mouthful why, so here's the reason on screen. The boss on this floor is pretty unlucky. He costs me a bit of time because he can jump off screen whenever he wants, making him take longer to kill. I check the devil room and unfortunately it's all garbage yet again. The next floor is full of enemies that seemingly want to waste my time. I enter the treasure room and oh my god, there it is, my victory. Just floating, being beautiful. This is the Ludovico technique, aka an item that will make my tiny blood beam turn into a giant controllable ball of death that is permanently on screen. I finally fight Mom, and after a painstakingly slow fight, I manage to beat her and grab the negative Polaroid to increase my tears. And then I get another 16.9% chance angel room, which is ridiculous. But this angel room also had 3 different different items to choose from, and the item that I went with gives me a homing attack. How does a giant ball of death track enemies, you might ask? Like this. I honestly couldn't contain my excitement at this point. Oh my god! Unfortunately, as the levels get bigger, I'm hit by a curse that removes my map, so I lose some time walking the wrong way in order to meet the boss. I did some estimating, and even though I've been insanely lucky when guessing the path, the time I spent choosing incorrect rooms cost me a staggering 28 seconds on this floor alone. This could have easily taken a lot longer if my build wasn't so strong, but 28 seconds is still a pretty hefty amount of time that could cost me the entire challenge. We beat the boss in a few seconds, pick up a magic pony, and continue on our way. The next floor, I get incredibly lucky. I only get 2 wrong rooms on a 7-room path to the boss. To give you a metric, at this point of the game, floors have up to 20 rooms. Each room can cost a lot of time, especially having to backtrack the way you came. Perfect luck on this floor would have been 7 rooms into the boss. It took me 9 out of 20, which is nearly perfect. I beat Mom's heart in about 7 seconds and head to fight the final boss of this run, which is Isaac in the cathedral. It's a little complicated why I made this choice, but basically, we reached the cathedral, run the wrong way, and it cost me a bit of time. But still, I managed to find and beat Isaac relatively quickly, with my final in-game time being 12:31, which is by far the fastest I have ever beaten this game in my life. But since this was an RTA, it was actually a 14:16 spent out of our 1-hour limit. I close out Isaac and open Vampire Survivors as fast as humanly possible, taking me 22 seconds to get into our next run. There's not much I can say about Vampire Survivors since this game is very consistent. I opt to choose Bone Man because he gets bonus projectiles which are pretty overpowered. Since I was playing Hurry Mode, I needed a weapon that had high base damage to deal with the amount of mobs that would be coming my way. Unfortunately, since Bone Man starts with the Bone, aka a pretty bad item, I immediately get chunked and have to pray that I find healing. Eventually, I get a Shadow Pinion which has insanely high base damage and is very versatile in the way that it strikes, and after that, it was pretty straightforward. I get a whip because it's OP on this stage and I require healing. I get an axe for the same reason. Also, the axe's Evo item is the Candelabra, which makes every projectile I throw bigger, which equal good. I evolve my Shadow Pinion, find a garlic, continue to slowly evolve my other items, then I accidentally spawn a really overpowered boss and have to deal with them. Eventually, everything gets evoed and we finish the run at 32:55, meaning even though the in-game playtime only took 15 minutes, alongside menus, chest pop-ups, and item selecting, this run took 18 minutes and 17 seconds. I close the game out and open Hades as fast as my Puerto Rican fingers can muster, and I end up in my Hades run at 33:31. I now have only 26 minutes and 29 seconds to beat my favorite roguelike, which is a faster RTA than I've ever done in my life. The first floor is kind of simple. I get the boon I needed, which is the Ares Doom attack. This basically means whenever I strike an enemy, they'll take flat additional damage after a second, which is great for this playstyle because I'll be running around and tagging every enemy so they could all die quickly. I speedrun the first few floors and run into the first shop I see in order to skip a fight and save precious time. I get not 1, but 2 items that I don't really need. However, it's not that big of a deal. I luckily find a hammer which allows me to get bonus range on my fist, which means I can apply a doom attack to more enemies in the room as I keep sprinting. Things were actually looking pretty good. Until they weren't. Because literally 1 room later, I get a timed event. Which basically means this room, which should only take me a few seconds, is now time-locked to take an entire minute. No matter how fast I move, I was ironically trapped in hell, watching precious seconds fly by as my luck was starting to run out. After finishing this room, I move as fast as I could and immediately get my 3rd and 4th low-tier items in a row. One slow and agonizing boss fight later, I looked at the time and saw I had less than 20 minutes left. I change my keepsake in between stages, which is a fancy way of saying I tell the game what power-up I want next. Whether the game listens is a different story. After a bit more time wasted in loading screens, I hit the ground running. I immediately roll a Hermes, which is a god that grants me movement speed, which is perfect for what we're doing, it's a speedrun. And then we see Athena, the god we need in order to make our run a guaranteed win. Athena offers 3 things I absolutely must have. The first being a dash that gives me invulnerability and also deflects enemy attacks. The second being a special upgrade which would make my uppercut deal way more damage and also allow it to deflect. And the third being a rare upgrade called Merciful End, which makes every single ability I have that deflects proc Doom, that bonus damage thing. The reason why this is overpowered is because the specific gauntlets I was using allow me to charge a secondary attack, and that secondary attack hits enemies multiple times in a row. If those multiple hits are also doing high base damage thanks to the repeated procs of Doom, I could basically two-shot anything. With my first item out of the way, I'm starting to feel pretty inspired. Then, as if God heard my silent plea begging for a chance to make it in our tight deadline, he gave me another Athena roll. Oh! But get this! It was also a healing room, meaning I skipped an entire 30-second encounter and got a chance to roll for what I needed. With 2 out of the 3 items necessary for a guaranteed victory, I pressed onwards. I get another item I don't need, however, it's pretty good overall, so I'm happy with it. But then, when it rains, it pours. Once again, this happens. Please, dude, Thanatos and Hades just need to chat me up today? Another timed event, which cost me a staggering 48 seconds. Getting one of these is bad enough, but getting 2 really made me question whether or not this is even possible. Fortunately, we got another free room in the form of Eurydice, which is just an NPC that gives you an item and lets you leave. Immediately after, there was a shop, which was fantastic because we could skip yet another fight. And that's when I saw it. Another Athena. If she had the upgrade we needed, a Merciful End here, we had a chance. However, if she didn't, things would be pretty grim. She doesn't have it at first, so I use one of the only rerolls I have. And there it was! This was the last thing I need! We get to the second boss and tear him down faster than Best Buy's front doors during Black Friday. With an okay boss fight down, we were now at the halfway mark of our journey, and only had 14 minutes to make it to the end. Floor 3 in Hades is notorious for wasting your time. There are enemies that block you, multiple types of enemies that respawn, enemies that run away from you, and the encounters are massive, meaning you can miss an enemy and then have to look around. Our first power-up is another hammer, which allows me to buff my dash strike. I continue my hellish tear through this world, checking the clock every half second I can look away. I face the butterfly ball boss, which could be a time sink if you can't kill it fast enough because it keeps spawning allies. But not this time, Buster. I get another low tier roll, but I press onward. At this point, I only have a little over 10 minutes to finish the last 2 levels of the game. And because of it, I have to cut corners in just about every way I can. I even avoid getting power-ups from gods because I knew the dialogue would cost me precious seconds. We dive through a shop and grab everything we see, luckily skipping yet another encounter. After a relatively slow third boss fight against a man and his bull, alongside another 2 loading screens, I now have less than 7 minutes to beat the final stage of the game. To give you context about what you're about to see, I want to quickly explain to you the 4th level, aka the Temple of Styx. In order to fight Hades, you have to give Cerberus something called a satyr sack so he can move out of the way. To find the satyr sack, you have to randomly choose between the 5 rooms on the left. You will never find it on your first try, but you can find it from the second room onwards, and finding it on your second room is a 54% chance. I beat the first set of rooms as fast as I can. Knowing it wouldn't be at the end, I randomly select a power-up and immediately dash into the second room with 5 minutes and 36 seconds left. I beat another set of floors and cross my fingers because, again, finding it on your second choice is a 54% chance. A gamble, that I lost. Unlucky. It's kind of rare, but the unlucky ones have a 30.4% chance of finding it in the third room. I run to my third choice of rooms and get to its final section, only to be met by a ridiculous amount of enemy waves. Once I finish this room, I cross my fingers and pray that 30.4% chance would be on my side. But this was another gamble that I lost. If you are devastatingly unlucky, there is an 11.2% chance that it spawns on your fourth choice. And unfortunately, we get a fourth room spawn. I now had 2 minutes and 30 seconds to get to and defeat Hades. 30 of those seconds would be consumed by the slowest cutscene imaginable. It's just so slow! How am I supposed to do this? I was ready to throw in the towel. But at this point, I start to remember my journey. The insane angel rooms in Binding of Isaac, the near-perfect pathing that can only be explained as an act of God, the days I spent preparing for this moment and failing again and again. I only had 1 minute and 57 seconds left to beat a 2-stage boss fight where Hades can become impervious, disappear, and simply spawn monsters to get in my way. I don't even think I could get this lucky again if I tried. So it was now or never. Bro, please don't impervious, please. Oh, time! What is it? Number pad 7? Ah! Ah! Holy sh! Oh my god! And just like that, we beat all 3 of the most popular roguelikes in 59 minutes and 38 seconds. We only had 22 seconds left. If I had walked the wrong way in one more stage of Isaac, I would have lost. If I had not gotten the insanely low percentage chance angel room twice, I would have lost. If I had spent an extra quarter second on the 80+ menus in Vampire Survivors, I would have lost. But we didn't. We won. So what was the point? Why did I attempt to complete such an insane challenge? Well, it's simple. I love roguelikes. They're by far my favorite genre of video games, and even years and years after their initial release, I still find myself opening them just to see what happens. Sure, there's moments where your luck can be atrocious, and moments where you're so lucky that you may feel the hand of Zeus on your back telling you to keep trying. But it's a lot more than that. Roguelikes are the genre that keep on giving. And if I could beat the 3 most popular roguelikes in under an hour, I really hope that you can give any roguelike an hour of your time. I'm Scooch, and I hope you enjoyed whatever this was. I'm gonna go ice my gamer hands, cause this video was a lot of work, but if you're new here, please subscribe and ring the bell so that you don't miss more videos like this one. And even if you're not new, please let me know what your favorite roguelike is in the comments section so I can add it to my collection. Here's a video on the screen which you should totally click on because it'll be cool. Go on, click it. Click on that video. Click the, go, press the, click the, go!